Hi everybody, hope you're having a nice day. If you don't know me, my name's Anna. I'm a clinical psychology doctoral candidate, and on this channel we talk about real-life applications to psychology. I've started a new series where I psychoanalyze song lyrics, like I said in the last video. I'm not actually operating from a psychoanalytic theoretical orientation. That is something completely different. What I mean by psychoanalyzing is just analyzing the content in songs from a psychological lens. Today I'm going to be reacting to Him and I by Halsey and G-Eazy, and I think it was Traitor by Olivia Rodrigo. I don't ever actually listen to Olivia Rodrigo. I've heard she's very talented, so I'm excited to see whether she's able to evoke the heartbreak in her lyricism that I've heard she can. Alright, so let's get going with Him and I by Halsey and G-Eazy. Cross my heart, hope to die. To my lover, I'd never lie. He said, be true, I swear I'll try. In the end, it's him and I. So basically she's saying, I promise to be true, to be loyal, to be honest, all that good stuff. And he's also asking her to be faithful, and so she's promising that she will. It's interesting that he's asking that of her. Her word choice, I'll try, is interesting. It does imply maybe some reluctance about her ability to be able to be true, but we'll see if it amounts to anything later in the song. He's out his head, I'm out my mind. We got that love, the crazy kind. I am his and he is mine. In the end, it's him and I, him and I. So the lyrics out his head and out my mind do suggest that they're maybe both not the healthiest mentally speaking. And this is interesting. I don't think that you have to not have a mental issue to be in a relationship. I do not believe that at all. But I do think you need to be putting in the work to not let it negatively affect the other person. And if you can't do that, then you maybe should consider being alone. You know, it's like there's a difference between having depression and struggling to meet up with your partner versus having depression where irritability is a core feature of your presentation and you're really lashing out at your partner. There's a difference between those two. And everyone has different mental issues that they're working through with different types of presentations, and so it's very case by case. But the impression I'm getting so far is that they are letting their emotional stuff get in the way of their relationship. That's just kind of a hunch that I'm getting. So also, I am his, he is mine suggests some possessiveness, almost a little bit objectifying. I think it was in Breakfast at Tiffany's, that scene where the main character's love interest says, well, you're mine, and she says, no, I'm not yours, people can't belong to each other. But you know, it often gets romanticized, the possessiveness, in that, well, I'm sorry, I just realized the AC has been running this whole time. I apologize, it's over now. But yeah, this possessiveness definitely does get romanticized in art, music, because I think a lot of people want to feel secure in having their partner. A lot of people struggle with things like fear of abandonment, and so they feel like they need to latch on to their person in a way. And the title of the song shows up in this chorus, Him and I. It kind of gives me us against the world vibes, and there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with being a little bit mistrustful of the world and only truly placing your trust in your partner. I know my partner and I, we're always saying that we trust each other more than we trust other people in our lives, but there are just a few things to look out for. One thing is, if you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, meaning you're only trusting this one person, the stakes are pretty high and it will be pretty catastrophic if they're not able to live up to that expectation. The second issue is that either intentionally or unintentionally, you might be isolating yourself from your support system. Unintentionally, it could just be to the point where you and your partner aren't really spending time with other people, and if something happens to them or to your relationship, that again is going to be pretty catastrophic. Or if they're intentionally isolating you, that's even more concerning. And the third issue I have is, do they really trust each other? Because they keep affirming it and asking each other to affirm it, which slightly denotes fragility in their relationship. So then G-Eazy comes in, my 65 speeding up the PCH, a hell of a ride. They don't want to see us make it, they just want to divide. 2017 Bonnie and Clyde. Wouldn't see the point of living if one of us died, yeah. Got that kind of style everybody try to rip off. So he's speeding. Okay, cool, bro. But really, like, why is his first line a flex about his car and his fast life when this is supposed to be a love song and a testament to loyalty? It's just, it doesn't really quite add up. His line about how they want to divide, again, you know, I don't really have enough context to know whether this is paranoia or whether it's valid suspicion. There are certainly situations in which having a level of mistrust for people is understandable, because the world can be a place that tries to tear you down, and especially when you're at his level in terms of fame and money. I'm sure there are people that are out to get him, but it's just a little something I'm flagging, because in a song that's supposed to be about their strength as a couple, there just seem to be a lot of different forces that seem to be kind of pulling apart or shaking their foundation. Reference to Bonnie and Clyde, I didn't see the movie. I think there's a movie about them, but correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they die? Like Romeo and Juliet? Why are we romanticizing couples that did not have a very happy ending? The next line about how if she weren't alive, he wouldn't see the point of it either, it's kind of the first indication I'm getting that he actually loves her. And then it goes back to talking about style, and again, more mistrust of others' intentions that seems to kind of hijack the message of the song. And it's kind of like he just can't get his mind off of how other people are out to get him. It just kind of clouds everything that he's thinking about, even while he's trying to write the song about how him and his girlfriend are indestructible. YSL dress under when she takes the mink off, silk on her body, pull it down and watch it slip off. Ever catch me cheating, she would try to cut my D off, ha ha ha. Crazy, but I love her, I could never run from her. Hit it, no rubber, never would let no one touch her. So he likes her style and he likes her body. A bit superficial reasons to love somebody, and it's starting to get a little bit concerning, just the discrepancy between her proclamation of loyalty versus his need to flex and to focus on the more superficial aspects of their relationship. If I were to venture a guess, I'd guess probably Halsey's persona in the song is the pursuer and G-Eazy's persona is the distancer. Just a hunch. Then he brings up this hypothetical cheating. And if he's bringing it up hypothetically, it kind of suggests that he's considered it. And if his only motive to not act on that consideration is his girlfriend's wrath, I'd say that's not a very strong predictor that he's going to stay loyal. And spoiler alert, Halsey claimed that G-Eazy did allegedly cheat on her multiple times, many times. And it's really interesting because he's saying if she would catch me cheating. It kind of implies that he is cheating, and that it's not so much a matter of cheating or not cheating, it's a matter of getting caught or versus not getting caught, which is interesting. And then in the next line, he calls her crazy. Now the second time that they've called each other crazy, except she also called herself that, whereas he's only calling her that so far. It does suggest a lack of respect. I would certainly be a little bit disrespected if a partner were to call me crazy. It also kind of indicates that the relationship is pretty full of emotional lability, explosiveness, impulsivity. And that line is also interesting because it implies he loves her despite her being crazy. It feels a little bit like he is kind of doing her a favor, like he loves her even though she's crazy, instead of loving her for exactly the person that she is. No rubber, that implies trust, I guess, because he trusts her enough to do that, but also kind of a lack of care about her if he was cheating at this point. It definitely contradicts the I love her part. And then we have that line about if anyone were to touch her, so we see more possessiveness, some protectiveness as well, and just generally a complex whirlwind of emotions. Swear we drive each other mad, she be so stubborn, but what the fuck is love with no pain, no suffer, intense this shit, it gets dense. She knows when I'm out of it, like she could just sense. If I had $1 million or was down to 10 cents, she'd be down for whatever, never gotta convince, you know? So again, drive each other mad, confirmation that the relationship might not be either the most healthy or the most compatible. You know, if you ever feel exasperated in a relationship, there's at least one person there who could do some work on healthy communication, usually two, because usually people with healthy communication just don't stick around very long with people that don't have healthy communication. They just have standards where they don't really tolerate that. There's always this question about, is love supposed to be suffering? My answer is no. If love feels like suffering, what you might be going through is trauma bonding, where you're starting to bond with someone that is causing you a great deal of long-lasting pain, or the addictiveness of intermittent reinforcement. I've talked about intermittent reinforcement before in the context of emotional abuse, when someone kind of intersperses reinforcement with punishment and you just never know what you're gonna get. You never know, are they gonna be nice today, or are they gonna be mean today? Are they gonna treat me well? Are they gonna just randomly lash out on me? That's intermittent reinforcement. It's highly addictive. It feels like suffering. Sometimes people think it's love, but in my opinion, it's not. And when you have such a, let's say, toxic relationship, the lows really do make the highs feel higher. But healthy relationships shouldn't be painful. They should lessen the pain, and the pain should ideally be coming from externally, not from within your own relationship, person that's supposed to love you the most. But it's true that the ones we love have the most power to hurt us. But the issue is they shouldn't be using that power to actually hurt us. He says she can sense when he's out of it. I don't know in what sense he means, but if she's the pursuer, like I suspect, of course she's going to be hypersensitive to small changes that he's retreating, some of which will be true. Sometimes, if you're hypersensitive to abandonment or sudden shifts in the other person's demeanor, some of them might be false alarms, but some of them might not be. He says basically she's a ride or die. So it sounds like he knows that her love for him is not dependent on superficial things. She's going to stick around no matter what. Which makes it a little weird to me, again, that so many of his verses are focused on the more superficial aspects of their love. It's her and I, mobbing till the end of time, only one who gets me, I'm a crazy effing Gemini. Remember this for when I die, everybody dressed in all black, suits and a tie. My funeral will be lit if I... It's interesting to me that he identifies so strongly as a Gemini. I know it's something he's rapped about in other songs as well, because Halsey herself has spoken out about being bipolar. And if you take a look at really the Gemini astrology sign and what it stands for, it does have kind of that bipolarity, or multiple people within one person, where one person might be very sweet, very innocent, and one person might have more of an edge, kind of like a shadow self. To me, at least, that's what the Gemini zodiac sign represents. And so it's an interesting parallel, because if he's a Gemini and she has bipolar disorder, they do kind of mirror each other. Also, he says that she understands him, and he finally acknowledges that he is also crazy. So I'm glad to see that he's not just throwing it all on her anymore. But again, just a lot of time spent on what she can provide for him, not too much on what he does to improve her life or why he wants to improve her life, what he likes about her beyond what she can provide for him. And then at the end of that paragraph, he kind of goes into a fantasy about his own funeral, which is just a bit grandiose. Ever go down or get caught or they identify, my bitch was the most solid, nothing to solidify. She would never cheat, you'd never see her with a different guy. Ever tell you different, then it's a lie. How endearing that he calls her my bitch, but apparently that's a synonym for women if you didn't know. It's nice that he's confident in her loyalty, but it seems a little bit taken for granted considering that he isn't quite as confident talking about his loyalty in this song. Also, there's just a lot of affirming that she's loyal, that she's not going to cheat, to the point where it kind of makes me wonder if it's a bit of a projection, in that, if he was cheating at the time, maybe he was very preoccupied with her being loyal because he knew that if she's anything like him, she's not loyal. And then my bitch, my soldier, honestly, I wish he'd have some respect. Also, like, soldier in what? Because love should not feel like a war zone. Also, it's just kind of a pet peeve when people refer to themselves as soldiers, because it's usually used to justify something that's not great. Like in The Sopranos, they are always calling themselves soldiers because they see it as just a war. She keeps that thing if anyone goes there. Calm and collected, she keeps her composure. And she gonna ride for me until this thing over. We do drugs together, fuck up clubs together, and we'd both go crazy if it was to sever. We keep mobbing, it's just me and my bitch. Fuck the world, we just gonna keep getting rich, Again, ride for me, it's not really we ride together, but rather she does this for me. Very egotistical, very utilitarian lens. The part where he's talking about if their love were to sever, well, in the end, it did, and it seems like Halsey did take it hard, but now she's thriving. I mean, she has a new baby, she has a new album, she has a partner. Also, I'm sorry, I just realized that Halsey pronouns are now they, them. I apologize that I've been misgendering them this whole time, but when this song came out, their pronouns were she, her, and so I just kind of still had that image in my head. But yeah, Halsey seems to be thriving right now, and if anything, G-Eazy seems to be struggling a bit. I bring this up because I know a lot of you have been in relationships where you felt like someone mistreated you, and the silver lining is that the person that learns from their mistakes is the person that most easily moves on. But if someone cheated, mistreated you, disrespected you, if they don't solve their issues, those issues are going to recur. You're not the one who has to suffer the action. You're not the one who has to suffer the consequences of their character flaws in the long term. Again, he brings up getting rich. He keeps bringing it back to this grandeur, materialism, and mistrust of others. It's like he can't help himself. His thoughts are just consumed with these things, with materialism, with flexing, and with other people trying to take those materials away from him. And then Halsey has another verse, cross my heart, hope to die, to you I've never lied, for you I'd take a life. It's him and I swear, till the end I'ma ride with you, mob and get money, get high with you, yeah. So she's again saying she's honest, she'd do anything for him. It mirrors his assertions that she would do anything for him, not so much his assertions that he will reciprocate, because there's not too much of that. This is the second mention of drugs in this song, and I'm kind of wondering what role drugs played in the lability and instability of their relationship, if any. Whether the high was kind of blinding them from the dysfunction of the relationship. So yeah, that's Him and I by Halsey and G-Eazy. Some final thoughts. I mean, you know, like I said, I don't want to comment too much on the people, but rather on the song. But given what they've both said about their relationship after the fact, it does seem like the song is reflective of the way their relationship allegedly ended. And it seems a little bit one-directional in the sense that one person is unconditionally loyal and the other loves them because of it, but doesn't necessarily reciprocate that. So let's go into Traitor by Olivia Rodrigo. Like I said, I've never actually listened to her before. I might have heard her on the radio in an Uber or something, but never really sat down to dissect it. Ooh, ooh, ah, 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 ah. Brown guilty eyes and little white lies. Yeah, I played dumb, but I always knew that you talked to her, maybe did even worse. I kept quiet so I could keep you. So she played dumb. When she says playing dumb, it almost sounds like denial, not hiding her knowledge from him necessarily, but maybe hiding it from herself because it's too painful to confront. When she talks about, I always knew you talked to her, maybe even did worse, it's interesting how technology has opened up access to infidelity in a way that it didn't exist before, to the point where now when we say, oh, I'm talking with this person, it usually implies something more. And I really think it's because technology allows people to get acquainted and intimate much quicker because of the familiarity. In the past, running into someone, maybe you would do that like once a week if you're really running in the same circles or running in the same places, versus now with technology, you have the ability to get acquainted with someone 24/7, to talk to them whenever you feel like it. And that familiarity is a huge predictor in whether somebody is going to develop romantic feelings for another person. So the more you talk to someone, yeah, it's kind of true that the more susceptible you are to infidelity, because it takes a lot of willpower to stop yourself from going down that path. But familiarity really can be a slippery slope. And that last line about hoping to keep you, she's kind of looking the other way. She echoes what a lot of my dissertation participants said. If you don't know, my dissertation's on college women's experience in hookup culture, and a lot of them were saying, I'd rather have a little piece of him than none at all. It's kind of like settling for less than you want and less than you think you deserve, because it would just be so painful to not have access to this person at all. And I think if we were really to take the time to do a pros and cons list and look at what will be more painful in the long run, usually it's staying with someone that doesn't necessarily feel the same about you. If you simply cut someone off, yeah, it's really painful at first, but it's far less traumatic than staying in a relationship with someone you know has eyes for someone else. And ain't it funny how you ran to her the second that we called it quits? So yeah, not a great sign for their relationship. It might seem like, oh, he's so into her, but it's probably more that he can't stand being alone or is love bombing his new interest. How quickly you got together is how quickly that relationship usually ends. I kind of said something similar in my analysis of the song Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne, where I said how you get him is how you lose him. And I personally have said this other expression to friends. Like, I have a friend who, he met this girl at a pool party and they got together really quickly. Like within the day, they were like husband and wife. And he was asking, you know, what do you think about the relationship? And I told him, well, I think it's probably gonna end as fast as it started. And in the end, that is absolutely what happened. It's interesting that I bring up Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne because this song is kind of the other side of that coin, where you get to see the perils of stealing a man, how much pain it can cause on the other side, and it might feel like you're winning to be the other woman, to take someone from someone else. But if you really take the time to think about, how might this make the other person feel, really have some empathy, I think you realize that it can be something that causes a great deal of pain. Also, just this song really shows how painful it is to feel like you can see your partner being drawn to someone, and then the second you let go, you realize you were the only thing holding on to that relationship. It's kind of like being in an ocean and holding on to someone and then losing your grip for just a brief moment, and then watching them drift off onto the waves and realizing that they weren't holding on at all. It was literally just you. Or kind of like if you're hanging out with your partner 24/7 so that they don't have an opportunity to cheat, but then the first time you're apart, they're gonna cheat if you're the only person clinging to the relationship, clinging to the loyalty. I'm sure that it's very painful. And ain't it funny how you said you were friends, now it sure as hell don't look like it. Yeah, so the deception definitely seems to hurt. Just realizing that your entire relationship was a lie, that your partner was longing for someone else the whole time. You betrayed me, and I know that you'll never feel sorry for the way I hurt. Yeah, you talked to her when we were together, loved you at your worst, but that didn't matter. I'm sure this brings up a lot of questions for different people about, is it betrayal if the person never technically cheated? Yes. Betrayal is not the same thing as infidelity. There are many ways to betray someone. Like, for instance, if your partner talks about you negatively to other people, that's not necessarily infidelity, but it's still betrayal. Betrayal is simply when you realize that this person cared less about you than you thought they did. And she really speaks to a lack of empathy on his part, which, in my opinion, won't bode very well in his next relationship. If you don't have empathy for the person that you just broke up with, there's not going to be that much empathy for the next person. When she says, I loved you at your worst, it kind of suggests she was taken advantage of after supporting someone, because when she was supporting him at his lowest, she had the least to gain from it. It's kind of like someone who would bite the hand that feeds them. You're trying to help someone when they're at their lowest, and then they just push you away once they're finally back up on their feet. It's a lack of gratitude. It's basically being a user, taking advantage of people. It reminds me of this common assumption after an ex betrays you that their new relationship is perfect, and it's not. Like, they're likely projecting this perfect image to hurt or spite you, or just because, but they're still the same person with the same flaws that are going to present in their new relationship just as they did in their relationship with you. Like I said in the last song, the person that learns from their mistakes in a relationship is the one that moves on the quickest. It took you 2 weeks to go off and date her. Guess you didn't cheat, but you're still a traitor. Now you bring her around just to shut me down, show her off like she's a new trophy. Okay, so now this is getting beyond lack of empathy. Now this is bordering on callousness, because trying to hurt someone you've already hurt is almost sadistic. Also, if he treats this girl as a trophy, that's very objectifying. He might love her for what she can provide to him in terms of image, but not necessarily for who she is as a person. And there's no need to envy that, because that is not a very strong foundation. And I know if you were true, there's no damn way that you could fall in love with somebody that quickly. Yes, that's an astute insight. Again, it hurts to realize that your love was an illusion, but it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you trusted someone at their word. Ain't it funny, all the twisted games, all the questions you used to avoid. So games suggest manipulation, avoid suggests deflection. Ain't it funny, remember I brought her up and you told me I was paranoid. Okay, so now we're going full on gaslighting. Gaslighting, making her feel crazy for having suspicions, which were obviously very valid suspicions. This is getting to a point where he's painting a picture of emotional abuse. It's beyond just betrayal. It's this person, there's something a little bit off about them. And why are we mourning this guy again? Because I promise he's doing this to his next girlfriend too. God, I wish that you had thought this through before I went and fell in love with you. When she's sleeping in the bed we made, don't you dare forget about the way. It's interesting when she says, I wish you thought this through, because I was just recently rewatching Dr. Foster. It's on Netflix. It's a great show. I highly recommend it. And there's a scene where a man who cheated on his wife is lying about it, and his wife confronts him and she tells him, think this through. Think through the consequences of lying versus the consequences of telling the truth right now. And of course, he doesn't tell the truth because he's a pathological liar. He has a real character flaw, that character. And pathological liars are by definition pathological because they don't understand when it's maladaptive to lie. Yes, there are some adaptive benefits to lying at some point. Like, for instance, if you're on a job interview and the interviewer says, do you like this decor? Saying, yes, I like it is probably going to benefit you. Or if you're at the dinner table and your mom asks you, hey, what do you think of this meal I made? a little white lie probably going to be beneficial. But pathological liars don't realize that such big lies and such big betrayals, they always get caught, and it is not in their best interest to lie in that moment. But it's also related to the fact that they overestimate their ability to bamboozle people. So it's like, oh, well, I can lie about anything. I can get anyone to believe anything. No, that's not true. Most people aren't that stupid. And again, this speaks to how she wishes she'd shown his true colors before she fell in love. And, you know, I hate to say it, but that's why you gotta pay attention to the red flags really early on. It sounds like she definitely caught on to the red flags, that he was into this other woman. And it's about really, despite it being painful, severing that relationship really early on when you realize that there are some red flags. Because if you remember, red flag means stop. It means you do not go. It means this is a deal breaker. So those are my thoughts on Traitor by Olivia Rodrigo. I do see why people think she is a great lyricist. She is able to evoke emotions very well. Let me know what other songs you want me to psychoanalyze in this series. Hope you have a great day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon.